it was good to see you in real life in New
I
Orleans
know.
at LMA, like after all the email that went back and forth, and being part of the mastermind program together. There we
I mean, I
were.
think that's the benefit of these conferences. I mean, I've noticed on LinkedIn in the last day or two, the LSSO Rain Dance Conference is happening now, and it is amazing to see all the people that are going and excited to connect with people. And I think the benefit of these conferences in our industry is that we all really thrive off that in-person network we have, and we all are amazed at how vast our network is essentially across North America in this industry because it's such a tiny industry relative to anything else. And when we get those sort of um, traditional FaceTime moments, we all kind of leverage them because we know that we're going to benefit from ideas and just connecting with people who we've either worked with previously at other firms or on committees, and it's sort of this one time where we're all focusing on whatever that conference is and the people in our industry, and not so much focusing on every all the other noise that surrounds us in our day-to-day work.
I think you're absolutely right. It's so fun. And it's also like the proof for the lawyers that they need to get out to these conferences and participate in these in-person things as well. I just was involved in a workshop where we used AI to do search of the internet for to check on our own personal brand and give us a grade. Well, broadly across the internet, my personal brand could be better. But the first thing I thought of is, but I know hundreds of people in LMA. Like if this was just in that LMA microcosm, I'd be doing pretty well. And
Hmm.
that's the key, I think, for the lawyers too. They just need to get into those spaces, interact in person, and meet as many people as they can and reconnect with as many people as they can, because those are such a great opportunity to reconnect and tell people what you've been up to.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I agreed to today is that I was joking. I have to practice what I preach. I'm constantly saying, get out there and speak and publish and do these things. And so, I was speaking at an LMA conference. I mean, not conference, webinar next week. I just helped someone, co-author an article, and I thought, oh, podcast, the trifecta. I'm done now for a year.
Yep, you could just coast now.
Yeah.
Not true, of course. The other benefit for lawyers, I was thinking about this the other day, so I'm glad you brought it up. I'm glad to have you on the podcast, of course, and it's great to see you. But the other benefit that I've discovered for myself after doing a handful of these is that it helps me in my conversations with people in real life as well. I listen differently. you know, because I mean, it's podcasting is a wild experience. It doesn't seem like it's difficult. It's kind of hard, but you have to really focus on listening while you're thinking, while you're talking, and probing more deeply. And so it has helped me in those situations as well. And so I think that that's a side benefit. I'm not advocating that every lawyer start their own podcast, but certainly getting on podcasts and thinking on your feet and talking off the top of your head about stuff that you know really well is a great exercise.
Yeah, at the very least, it's that whole keep the conversation going. You In a podcast, you can't have these lulls. And whether that's a conversation where you're at a networking event and sort of probing and say, tell me more, or keep the conversation going. You met this individual. What are the next steps? How are we following up with them? How can we help them? Um, how are you reaching out to them? So I can see the parallels totally.
It's great. So tell me more about what other kinds of advice or what other programs that you're doing at your firm to help the lawyers do more things like this. What's your approach for pushing them out the door to go do these things that we know they will be
I
beneficial
mean,
to them?
part of it is sort of my own approach I've had to take. I've been doing this for quite some time, and I started thinking about, how can I still be engaged in what I'm doing and want to have that same excitement transferred over to my lawyers. And one of the things that I think someone mentioned it to me was the idea of being curious. And so I try to be curious in all the sort of things I'm doing, whether it's tell me more about your practice, tell me more about your clients. And I kind of translate that same idea, or hope to translate that same idea over to our lawyers, saying, be curious about the client. Ask them, what's on their organization's radar. Ask questions that extend beyond the file that we're all focused on right now. And I think when you start to think about that, whether it's in your own professional development like myself, or as what I'm telling the lawyers, it truly helps, expand not only your own capabilities, but in their case, their business. Um, it's we were just talking about what books everyone is reading, and it's the same books keep getting sort of mentioned, but one of the books that is actually quite popular with lots of people in our industry right now, it's called Unreasonable Hospitality, and it's an example of how being curious how client service is considered, and the excellence of client service in other organizations, and in this case of this book, it's the hospitality industry, and how that can translate over to professional services. It's a really interesting read, and it's one of those elements of just being curious about how other people are doing these things, and I think that's kind of reflective to everyone in our own industry. We're always asking, what works at your firm? What are your lawyers doing? And people are not out to get strategic secrets, and people are not going to ever give away their big idea. But when you hear a good idea, you think, aha, how can I, in my case, transfer that idea that a big firm is doing to a regional mid-market firm, and thinking about sort of those opportunities that way. And I think you see that across a lot of different firms. And back to seeing everyone at the LMA conference, people love hearing about ideas of other people. I mean, I'm doing this LMA webinar I'm doing next week is called Pieces of Gold, and it truly is, we are highlighting these amazing ideas we have heard from other people in our industry at their firms, and giving them the recognition for it. So it's not so much, this is what I'm doing at my firm. It's, this is what this individual at this firm in a totally different region is doing, and I heard about it. And so the panelists, we've been tasked with going out to those people who we've heard these ideas about, say, tell me more. Just like we tell our clients, tell me more. How did this idea come about? How did you get buy-in? How well has it been received by clients, by lawyers, that sort of thing? And that's just an example of being curious, and people like to hear these stories.
Yeah, when you talk about that and getting those, did you say it was nuggets of gold? Pieces of gold? Pieces of gold, even better, even better. Those are already have been refined, right? Like you're not pulling them out of the ground and having to make them into something else. These are existing gold pieces that have value for everybody. It's kind of nice. And that's what the Lawyer Book Builder program is built on, is those gold pieces from all of the lawyers that David Freeman has coached in his career. It's not just David Freeman regurgitating his stuff. It's him lifting up all of the success stories of all the people that he's worked with, over the past 30 years. And I think that's one of the things that happens really easily and naturally at those LMA, events as well. It's just as everybody's out to help each other out. It's like, what have you been up to? How can I help you? It's all good. So it was great to run into you there. What was your top takeaway from LMA New Orleans?
My top takeaway was that I still have so much to learn.
Mm.
I somewhat pride myself on staying up to date on what, how the industry is evolving, how firms essentially outside of my little zone, what they are doing to stay competitive, how they are dealing with, big issues like AI and globalization, to even sort of smaller issues, like the day-to-day coaching lawyers, that sort of thing. So I really think that I like that come away from these conferences and think, oh, I need to learn more about that, or I need to speak to someone about that, because it means I'm still interested in learning and still interested in evolving my own role, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that that's a great approach to go into those conferences with, to sort of get that always learning mindset going. That's one of the things that you and I probably use on a regular basis with our lawyers, to say, just embrace that always learning mindset. Sometimes it can create a scary situation where you're doing something that's brand new because you're learning, and most lawyers should be pretty quick to do this, and I think most marketing folks are too, to overcome that imposter syndrome. Just because you're learning something new doesn't mean you don't belong in that room learning that new thing. We got to start somewhere. The person who stops learning is the person who's not helping their firm anymore. So I'm glad to hear that that's your philosophy and your approach. We got to get the lawyers to think that way too.
I always come back energized and, loving my job again. But I also think too, it's great because the conference and the sessions validates often what I am doing in my firm, that, okay, we're all moving in the right direction here because these seem to be the best practices that, the panelists or keynotes are talking about. So it validates that. And it also kind of confirms to me that I'm not the only one dealing with certain challenges, that some challenges are just ingrained in the industry, and I'm not alone thinking, I don't know how to get over this hump.
If there was a moment in your career where you established the feeling that you knew what you were doing, you understood this better than the next person, and you're ready to roll it out to the lawyers in your firm, is there a moment where that sort of epiphany happened, or was it more of a slow burn?
Um, I think a bit of both, but I would say, like many people in this industry, I have worked at a variety of law firms, and once sort of was in a more senior role, and sort of my I guess sort of established myself, I began to see that the sort of opportunities and challenges at each firm were very similar. And so that was sort of an aha moment that, um, you know, we're not out to reinvent the wheel. We are here to sort of finesse sort of the skill set that is in one law firm and help elevate those lawyers in that position. And it's just sort of I always say the biggest learning curve at each law firm is learning all the lawyers' names. They only need to learn my name. I need to learn hundreds of names.
And
And I think that sort of was my aha moment, maybe around the third firm, that the challenges are similar. And, it really just depends on, whether it's the infrastructure in the firm, the culture, sort of the appetite to embrace someone like me in my role. That is what makes the difference. But sort of my aha moment was, okay, well, let's start this over again, and see where we can move the dial here.
I think that knowing people's names, of course, there's, again, if we quote popular books, it's the best music that a other person can hear is if you say their name, their name. Uh, that translates really well to client service.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I would hope that your client's name is at the top of your list, but that client has other members of their team. And boy, I think taking the opportunity to get to know those people by name as well and build those relationships is one way to really cement a lot of goodwill within that office of general counsel or that team or wherever they are.
Yeah, whether it's you or your team, you want to have your prongs and within the client at all the levels. Whether, so say you have the senior partner who is one-on-one always with the GC. You want to match up those relationships down the ladder, and it's in some organizations it's not very long, the ladder, but you take a look at some of the big institutional clients, the banks and whatnot. Some of their in-house teams can rival small firms, and making sure that um your own firm and the client service team there knows who the players are, on the client side, but vice versa. I have been to countless events throughout my career where I will meet someone and they will say, "Oh, I use your firm." And I'll say, "Oh, who do you use?" "I don't know. I don't know." And and so these are, these are individuals who know that we as a firm are one of their counsel of choice kind of thing. But there's so many of them that, they don't actually know who the right person is they're using, or they're using so many law firms that we are just the lawyer, which is the opposite of being the trusted advisor.
Right. Right. There's a real opportunity there.
Yeah. And so there becomes a huge opportunity to cement that relationship more. I mean, I personally go around, which is kind of counterproductive to my role in this sort of universe, saying that uh, clients hire lawyers, not law firms, and my job is to be like, hire my law firm. but
Sure.
but they don't. They hire lawyers. It's a relationship business, and at that individual level, you know. And so, I always tell my kids that to describe what I do. I say I help lawyers tell stories about how they help companies, and
It's great.
it's my kids understand that. Other people understand that. It's kind of one of those rules when you're setting up sort of your elevator pitch or whatever, is describe it in a way that a 6-year-old understands what you do. And that's what I do. And so I'm here to help lawyers tell their stories. I'm here to help practice groups tell their stories. And then, on the bigger firm level, like, what is our firm story? And so, I try to do all those things, but it all comes down to the relationship. We always want people to say that's like that they recognize our name, but I also want the clients to say that's my lawyer. You know.
So in your role, you are director of marketing and business development, right? So what I always tell lawyers is don't take off your lawyer hat and put on your business development hat, right? It's the same hat.
Yeah.
It's the same hat. Do you find that's the case for you as you're dividing your day into marketing tasks and business development tasks?
It definitely is in my current position because it's just me. And so I use the terms interchangeably. I mean, I clearly understand the difference when I present to new lawyers when they join the firm. I talk about the difference between marketing, one to many, business development, one to one. But in my role, it's everything. So let's take an event. An event in larger legal marketing environments falls under usually a marketing kind of silo. But it's not just an event. The business development side is the whole strategy around why should we have this event? Who should be in the room? What are all the things we're going to do before these individuals get in the room? What are we going to do all these things after they get in the room? And then the marketing side is, are the lists clean? Are the right people on the lists? And is the invite, pretty and not full of spelling mistakes? And are we sending out reminders and tracking RSVPs? But they're both interchangeable. You can't do one without the other. If you do one without the other, it's just an event, and there's no sort of business case around it to repeat the event.
Exactly. Do you remember, were you ever aware of a business development consultant named Bill Flannery?
Yes.
Bill worked with one of the firms that I was at and spun up the practice group meeting as they were getting ready to do their annual seminar that they give every year to clients, and are very proud of it. And it was very good, very well attended, all the right things. And he totally busted him on what do you do when it's done? And you could hear tumbleweeds rolling through the room because that wasn't part of what they had always had built into their plan. And so it changed. I mean, that was early on in my time at that firm as well. And so fortunately I was there to help make sure that practice groups saw those kinds of things through. But right, it's not, you don't just build up and build up and build up and check the box. Like you never check, make it be multiple boxes to check, right? We're talking about progress measures here, not reaching the finish line. You're never done.
There should always be a business case. And, sometimes that business case is very easy to make. Sometimes you have to think about it, and lots of initiatives, whether you're in a law firm or any industry, sometimes you have to go out on a whim and say, we have to see if this initiative will play out. There are definitely initiatives we've done in the past where, it was a slow burn before we started seeing sort of the return on the investment. But You have to think about those elements when you make these cases. And you can't spray and pray that, you know, we have sent this newsletter out to everyone, or we sent this invite out to 300 people and they're all going to come. Like, in especially client events, they have taken a huge hit. It requires so much more engagement from the lawyer to get individuals to come to an event now. It no longer is just in the marketing realm. It is necessary that a lawyer does that proactive outreach and say, hey, we're hosting this seminar. I think it's relevant because we talked about XYZ in our strategy call last week, and you or actually members of your team should come to it. You need that now. The relying on a email invite is not going to guarantee the success of any event.
Right. Social media ads are, fall to the wayside as well. It used to be that, a well-placed social media ad would get you, 4 to 6 clicks. Now it's 10 to 15 exposures to that ad for 1 click.
Yeah.
It's different now. The math is really different, but the thing that's remained the same is people and relationships. And, you mentioned AI earlier. My big takeaway from LMA was that broadly, folks are still scared of AI, not because they don't understand it or understand how to use it, but because from a security and privacy standpoint with client information and all of that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
there still is a lot of trepidation there. Well, you know what isn't scary? Talking to people, picking up the phone, seeing them face to face. Like, we know the rules around that kind of engagement and do more of that.
The way the industry is going, it just requires more effort because there is so much noise around everything. There's so much, whether it's, as you just said, social media ads or invites clogging your inbox, the amount of emails that come in every day, or just the sheer amount of law firms and corporate lawyers, and how do you know pop out and stand out in that noise? It's table stakes that you have good client service. It's table stakes that you are experts in your area. It's table stakes that you are working with large clients and entrepreneurs and leading edge clients. So, you know, how to for an individual lawyer to pop their head out of that noise, let alone the firms. It's an ongoing well, it's what's keeping me curious. How do we do that?
And how do you help a lawyer in your firm not get overwhelmed by that what appears to be a steep hill to climb in order to stand out?
I mean, it all comes down to what they're comfortable at, what they're good at. Like, you're never going to say to someone, I want you posting on LinkedIn and telling us about your, you know, trial prep. That if it's not something that they're comfortable in doing just because they see other people doing it. You want to play to people's strengths. That's a standard kind of rule. And so you play to what they're comfortable with, what their strengths are. And my job is to help it make it easy. It's not hand holding. I'm here as a resource to say, what can I do to, move this initiative forward? Um, you know, before, when people were going to be pitching clients or a new industry, there was a lot of research that went into sort of these client portfolios about who the client is, who we're meeting with, and that's one of the benefits of AI right now. It has taken a task that took hours and can synthesize it down, you know, to something quite digestible, helpful, you know. And so that's where I see AI is helpful.
Totally speeds up so many processes. And I think that, I've said it before on this podcast as well, the lawyer that knows AI is not going to be replaced by AI.
Yeah.
But the lawyer that doesn't, that's afraid of it, that doesn't use it, it's riskier situation. And certainly for people like you and me, we've got to be making use of it because, like you said earlier, there's so many more things that need to happen. There are so many more ways that you need to do things that collaborating with an AI tool is super helpful in speeding up that process.
Those are all the things that are keeping me curious or possibly also keeping me up at night.
Well, I hope you get some sleep anyway. I mean, I always like to, if I can go, yeah, I think I have an idea for that, I can go to bed and get up and hit it again in the morning. I like to try to not lose sleep at night, but it's impossible, right? Like, because we're sticking our necks out there. Um, Sometimes sleep isn't great. Speaking of not getting great sleep, we're both parents of competitive Irish dancers. Sometimes on the road to those competitions, the sleep isn't great. I don't mean to lean into that as the segue too much, but the fact that we're in environments where we are supporting people who are competing against each other. What have you learned about lawyer business development from being the parent of a competitive Irish dance? I don't want to say competitive Irish dance parents, because that seems like you and I are competing against each
Right.
other. We're not like that. Some parents are. Some parents are. So what have you learned about lawyer business development from being the parent of a competitive Irish dancer?
I had to sort of think of the parallels, but there were parallels. For example, let's just take the sport of Irish dancing is inherently subjective when it comes to the judging. It is, and so that I will have conversations with my daughter all the time. Think, I don't know, this judge like this judge like that, and that sort of experience, I think, reinforces that, success isn't just like a technical skill. It can be about presentation. It can be about connection, how the dancer connects with the judge on stage. And it's kind of similar how clients choose counsel. It's all subjective.
Right. And if you keep going to the competitions, you're going to come away more frequently with the result that you're looking for.
Yeah, that it practice makes perfect.
Right. Consistency is key. All the things that are in all the books, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's universal. It's universal.
Some other things, because you did tell me to think about this, so
Yeah. Yeah.
with that, so the dancers often only have one one chance to make a first impression. And so that sort of mirrors the nature of pitches and sort of initial key client interactions, first introductions, and so that kind of emphasizes sort of the importance of differentiation. You know, and in the Irish dance world, some would argue that comes down to the design and color of the dress.
Can. It
It can.
shouldn't. It
It shouldn't,
shouldn't.
but what is it that that judge takes away? What is it with that initial pitch when a client has several law firms coming before them, all experienced in this area? They wouldn't have made it to this round of the pitch if they didn't have the expertise, if they didn't have sort of the the story behind how they can help, what they can do, their technical expertise. So kind of a slight parallel. And then I kind of just thought also on back to sort of the judging. Sometimes it's subjective, but also sometimes it's ambiguous. Um, you know, the feedback that they receive isn't sometimes always consistent, but it does help them build resilience. They're forced to, continuously improve. Um, and they have to focus on, as I said, practice makes perfect. Preparation, repetition. Um, and that's sort of how I try to coach lawyers to tailor their approach to each of their clients and treat business development as a skill that you can consistently practice and refine.
Right. We hope that they're not judged solely on their costume or on their presentation. But like you said, if you're there and doing it consistently alongside other people who are competing for the same thing, and you're all good and qualified, what are the additional elements that are gonna put you over the top? And that's great advice to think about for lawyers going into
Look at
pitches.
Not to harp on the dresses, but look at all look at law firm websites.
Totally. Totally.
They all have the same structure to them. They all cover off the same sort of design elements.
Yep.
So those are sort of my, if I had to connect my day job to my weekend activities, then that's sort of how I see it. And I I think the resilience is the key thing that it highlights. We know that this industry, people do not like rejection, and um, being able to learn from that rejection, and build upon it, um, it is important because um, how careers in law evolve. It's not a linear thing. It is, you know, twists and turns. You can see that in any sport, really, but especially one that is just focused on the individual. That's not a team sport. They have to do this on their own. And, just like when you go out to pitch, there could be 9 firms pitching for the client. Only one is going to be chosen. And in Irish dance, only first place allows you to move up. When you get to those levels, second doesn't help you. First place only helps you. So, those are sort of my parallels on that.
You did a really good deep dive on that. I'm super impressed. I'm going to borrow some of those things and use them in my own coaching. I'll give you
There
credit,
you go.
of course. So, all right. Well, Kaley, I can't tell you how much I appreciate spending this time with you and talking with you, picking your brain a little bit, and getting your perspective on things. It's
Yeah.
really going to be helpful for a lot of people. So, thank you so much.
Happy to do it anytime. And I think just the nature of your last minute request sort of worked best in our industry because everything is, when do you need that by? Tomorrow. Oh, okay. No problem.
Perfect. Let it becomes important. So, well, thank you for rising
And
to the
I am
challenge.
always happy to help. This is what makes this industry very different from every other industry, is that everyone is willing to help.
You're absolutely right. Well, off we go. Thanks again. Am I going to see you at the North American Irish Dance Championships?
No, my daughter is only in what is it, preliminary champion,
Oh, okay.
and now that they've required 3 firsts, we're like, what?
Yep. Yep. Well, onward to the local and regional ones for you both. Good luck to
Yeah.
her and to you in that. And thanks again for
Well, we in
being on
Detroit
this.
this weekend, so
Good on you.
bye.
Take care. Thanks.
The BD Catalyst, a podcast for law firm business development and marketing changemakers, is brought to you by Lawyer Book Builder and BDBuddy.ai, technology designed to help law firms create an exceptional culture of business development. Our host is Kristo Sween, and our editor is Melanie Cristostomo. The BD Catalyst is a production of the David Freeman Consulting Group. Learn more at davidfreemanconsulting.com.